All right, we're live. Welcome to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm here with my co-host Glue Boy and our guest. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Pete, also known as Rule Lord 2E, host of Rise of the Rule Lords podcast, as well as a mod on the R Pathfinder 2E subreddit, where I can't change my username on there, but I have it flared on my username as Dogs Not Gods.
Oh, funny. I actually didn't know that.
I didn't know either. And I also like that this stream will have two indicators of when I'm speaking.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good.
Both my
No.
Discord will light up and the little Virgil will light up. Love to see it.
Nice.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Plus, everyone's getting used to the Virgil. They're like, "Who's this Simpson-looking guy?"
I just think the picture's really funny to me.
Well, isn't that why you picked Virgil as well? So
Yeah, it's just like the smiling Virgil. I just really like the face app smile genre of pictures. I think they're really funny. So I have like a folder full of Discord profiles that I usually cycle through.
And we are here for some important stuff today, but, as we typically do, we let people hop into the chat here. So, how are you gentlemen doing? What's been going on in your lives?
Well, I am super excited to be talking about and organizing the second annual Beginner Box Day, which we're calling Beginner Box Days with an S at the end. Because this time it is a weekend to weekend event, full 9 days of gaming with the beginner box, trying to bring new players into the hobby of either TTRPGs as a whole or Pathfinder 2E if they want to try it. So very excited about that. We have 73 tables right now.
Ooh.
Which is definitely breaking our pace from last year, where we got up to 100 tables, like at game time. So we're only a couple days into April. We still have until April 22nd is when the days officially start. So I am really hoping that we don't just get 100 tables, but we can get 100 GMs. That would be pretty incredible.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot. And, some other great stuff as well. You're the first returning guest on the channel, which
Yeah,
is
that's
really
true.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
And also, this is the year of beginners, because a lot of people are now interested in Pathfinder, considering everything that WotC does and really continues to do. I mean, are you familiar with what's happened with the summit or the direct that came out recently?
I know of the summit. I only really saw and paid attention to the news where it seems WotC is backpedaling pretty hard about there being a new edition, even though there's going to be substantial changes to what they're making. Which is kind of part of why Beginner Box Days exists in the first place. There are many people who play Dungeons and Dragons and think that's the only tabletop RPG around. And it's not. In fact, not even Pathfinder is the only one in town. But if you're looking for that crunchy, fantasy-oriented, high magic kind of tabletop game, Pathfinder is a great choice for people who have previous D&D experience or even are just coming into the hobby completely new. Beginner Box Days is intended to allow people to just try the game, because that was one of the most common things that we kept seeing on the subreddit, on the Discord, which is that people had trouble finding a game to play it. They might get the rule book, they might be like, oh, sounds great, but could never actually set up a game to play. So we wanted to have an avenue where people who are just interested, it's not saying you have to make a switch, doesn't say you have to abandon D&D entirely or ever stop playing it. It's just trying a new TTRPG and giving you the ability to actually do it instead of just thinking about it. So I have tried as hard as I can to move beyond D&D, where, like, thinking of it as the Paizo competitor or like the arch enemy of Paizo, because it's not. It's a big corporate. It's a corporation who sells a game that I think even their community would say has been going down in overall quality, and it's pretty clear that even though they have made good backpedals with like releasing stuff into Creative Commons, that we understand what the direction was, and that kind of stuff just doesn't go away. It's just a matter of when it'll pop its head up earlier. So if you are the kind of person who is tired of what's going on with WotC, give Pathfinder a try. Paizo's pretty cool.
It's a fun thing where consistently in my nerdy circles that I go around, because I had to grab some hobby supplies from my local like Warhammer store, and I walk in to people just shit talking the newest like content drop for 1D&D, and then I pull in the like, ooh, you could just do Pathfinder 2e, because I long since abandoned it for this game. And yeah, it's just like random places I'll hear talking about like, oh, they've killed Druid, I no longer care about Druid. Or oh, Paladin's worse now.
Yeah. D&D is gonna D&D.
Yeah.
Trying to stay civil. I mean, it's it's fair, right? It's something that if people enjoy the game, they should play the game that they want to play. But it's this thing, and to be fair to like the general audience, right? Tabletop is a very time-consuming, and it's something that you have to invest somewhat into.
And expensive, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not even with stuff like
but
Archive and Ethos, but yeah. And go ahead.
Oh, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is there's time, yes, and there's money, and you need to invest in both. And D&D, WotC has made it pretty apparent that this is not going to be a cheap hobby for people to continue to engage in. The famous quote that will be an albatross around their neck for as long as they continue on this current path is wanting to monetize D&D, which from their perspective makes total sense. They are a corporation, they are made to make money. But I definitely have a preference for how Paizo's been doing things, which is, yes, they're also a company that has to make money, has to make a profit, but they have found a balance between being able to get revenue, but also, in my opinion, do the right thing, which is have all of their rules available for free, totally accessible for everyone. The community can make all these awesome tools that make playing it a lot easier and better. And as far as I can tell, that support is either non-existent or going down with D&D. So I am trying to stay civil and not say D&D is a bad game, because it's not a bad game, but there is definitely a bad gaming philosophy behind it that I think Pathfinder 2nd edition especially works to avoid.
It's like the situation where, at least, I mean, also, is like, as much as I'll be very open about, like, you know, D&D's fallen off a little bit, like, I still am in 2 5e campaigns and I'm loving my time in it, because, you know, it's just, you're having a great time with friends. That's really what matters in the end. But like, it's the design difference of one that seems like trying to run a business over a game, and then the Paizo running a game, not a business. Like, at least, obviously, they're making money, they're running a business, but the game feels like it comes first for Pathfinder, which is a very fun thing to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because, man, you know, would love some new stuff for 5e, like some new subclasses, some new spells, maybe. Then what, we're getting like 3 new books right on the horizon, like a really cool new world book coming out soon for Pathfinder.
Yeah. Oh
That
my
book's gonna
goodness.
rule. I'm so excited for it.
The Qian books are gonna be really, really good.
I never thought I'd care about world books in Pathfinder until the Mwangi Expanse book came out, and I was like, this is fantastic.
I love the dwarves from that book. Funny thing, the Matangi orcs are also really cool. Oh goodness, I could talk forever about some of the cool stuff they've released, and you know, it's like, you don't need to try to be overly civil when it comes to really appealing to people and like what they're getting, especially because you're running an events to help. Which, I mean, like, when was the last time D&D, which the most bizarre thing, right? When's the last time D&D promoted an event of like, oh, we're doing this huge beginner event or beginner box, or we're doing a big giveaway of beginner boxes so you can try our game, which their beginner boxes won't even work anymore after 5.5.
So long. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, this is not anymore a Paizo event than something like that would be a Wizards of the Coast event. This is a community organized event. Our Pathfinder 2e is the unofficial but totally official source for our Pathfinder 2e to conglomerate at. Paizo is definitely helping us out. They're very excited about it. And I'm sure if someone did decide, hey, we're going to make an entire event where we're just going to run the starter set or the essentials kit or whatever. They've got like 5 different versions of it now. I'm sure if like the D&D subreddit or whatever the big D&D community felt like doing it, it would also be a huge success that Wizards of the Coast would be like totally behind. What I think prevents that from happening isn't that there's a lack of interest, but WotC seems to be sitting on their loins about it. They just assume D&D is always going to be the top dog, that people are going to naturally come over to D&D, that you don't have to persuade people to play D&D. It's just what people are going to do. Whereas everyone else, literally, Paizo is WotC's biggest competitor, but one of the best examples I've seen as far as like the scale of difference between them is WotC is Wonder Bread and Wizards and Paizo is like your local pastry chain.
Mm-hmm.
They, in terms of scale, they do not compare at all.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I do like about Paizo is the quality, and that is a very marked difference between any of the sets that you can get for D&D and the one that you can get with the Pathfinder 2e beginner box. Every single time that I have seen a review about it, especially by primarily D&D content creators, the reaction is always the same. Like, wow, this gives you a lot. this is really well done, and it is. I've looked inside the kits for D&D. They come with cards that are made on cheap paper that you have to manually rip yourself. They don't come with pawns. They do come with an adventure and like a little pamphlet. I don't even think that there's maps. There might be maps included, but not pawns. Whereas the Pathfinder 2e beginner box comes with all of those things. There's not just an adventure. There's everything you need to run the adventure. There are pre-generated characters that you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of character creation if you don't want to get that deep into it and you just want to get right to playing. Has an adventure, which is not just a great introduction for players, slowly introducing them to the concepts of Pathfinder as a game system from combat to skill usage. It's also a great adventure for new GMs, people who want to try just being a GM, because it leads you as a GM every step of the way in what you would need to be asking and doing of players. But it also comes with pawns, maps, a book for the players, a book for the GM. Comes with dice, colored dice, which I think is really cool, where the red one is the D20, the yellow one is the D4. That way, if you are totally new to TTRPGs, the beginner box, the GM can just say, roll a D20, and you're like, which one is that? Oh, it's the red one. And you roll the red one, and you start to get to learn about these complicated polyhedral dice through that way. Plus, it comes with some information about Pathfinder Society so that you can keep on playing. And even they all come with a coupon for Sirenscape so that you can have like cool sound effects. And that's just the physical beginner box.
Huh. Because I was going to ask what was actually in the Pathfinder beginner box, because like I, back in the day, did that with the D&D like Minds of Phandelver beginner box. And I remember like, yeah, all it included was the little adventure, some pre-gen characters, maybe a single thing of dice, but like I think I had to get the player's handbook like on its own still.
Yeah.
And not just the whole Pathfinder one sounds like a really good deal.
It's really good. The big difference, which is also kind of why I see maybe more people getting the D&D ones over the Pathfinder ones, is the D&D ones are considerably cheaper. That shows not just in the quality, but it allows people to buy in quantity. And I've seen posts of people, like especially during the holiday season, and you know, you get all those sales. The starter sets for D&D go for like $5-7 or something like that.
Whoa.
And the Paizo beginner box is, $40. That is not an insurmountable amount for some people. So I've seen people buy like 50 starter sets for D&D and then donate them to after school programs. It'd be really hard to do that for the Pathfinder one. But there is definitely a quality edge. You're going to get a better experience and more bang out of your buck with the Pathfinder one than you're going to get with the D&D one, in my personal experience.
That's a very interesting point. I never really thought of the startup costs in that way of like, oh well, what do you need to pay to get started? And it's like, oh, like $40-50. I didn't know the D&D one was like, or could be at least that cheap, which I mean is like an edge you can get as a bigger corporation as well. You can get those mass production costs that smaller companies can't hope to get. I mean, Paizo's been having trouble even just filling out book orders at this point with everything, so...
Oh, how could they? expect to have this massive identity crisis within the TTRPG community that makes everyone scramble for something else and pull all of their 8-month supply out of bookshelves.
Mhm.
I mean, that alone is a great testament to how much excitement there is for Pathfinder 2e. The OGL debacle was the best thing that could have happened for not just Pathfinder, but any TTRPG. Because for the first time, for many of these players and GMs, they thought, I should play something else. And that one thought was enough to spur growth in entire industries. Was just the idea of stepping outside of your comfort zone and giving something else a try. There are other starter sets out there that aren't just Pathfinder or D&D.
Mhm.
The One Ring has one that is pretty cool. What are some other ones that I've seen? I think there's ones for a lot of D&D offshoots, like there's this one for like animal companions. It's animal adventurers. They have like pawns of like barbarians, but they're golden retrievers.
Mhm.
You know, it's like there's a lot of cool starter sets out there. It's just getting people to that point of being like, okay, I can not only afford this, but I can have the capacity to run it, and I can get a group to play with me. Those are 3 big problems, and they're ones that we wanted to solve with Beginner Box Days. This is totally something that I would love to see replicated among other games, even D&D, is giving people a free shot to try something out. Because we made it clear we are not charging players to play this game. We're trying to make it as economical as possible for GMs, where we've worked with Paizo so that GMs can get a free copy of the Beginner Box PDF, which by itself, once it's in your digital content on the Paizo website, gives you a discount at least to the Foundry VTT module for the Beginner Box, which is chef's kiss. A great way to experience the Beginner Box. But even if you don't get the module, the free PDF, you can still export that into at least Foundry, and it'll be totally workable for you. So ideally, you could run the Beginner Box for free due to Beginner Box Days. But then we also wanted to make it easy for people to be able to find a group, which is why we're using RPG Chronicles as our sign-up sheet method rather than something like Warhorn. The thing about Warhorn that I found wasn't great was wasn't able to change time zones for people. And maybe that's changed since the last time I looked at it. I don't know. But RPG Chronicles has worked with us to change their system so that we can have this session dashboard of all open tables that show up in your local time zone so that you can see what time works for you. It's totally possible that someone is running this game in Australia and you're a night owl in America and you're like, oh, I can play that game, whereas I can't play in, the afternoon of US time. So this allows you to find the game that works for you. As well as, because it's a public event, we're trying to get as many players to join up as possible. We're not limited by the amount of GMs. We are, however, limited by the amount of, seats available, because some GMs can only handle 4 players, some will do 6, but even then, If every GM did do 6, there's still only a limited amount of actual seats. But this will probably guarantee that you're going to get to have a group to play with, finally. Whereas that might be really hard to do in your local physical meet space. So having this free sign up that works in people's time zones and is able to bring people together without any barriers of entry besides having, a computer, we found to be a really good way to bring people into this hobby. Last year, we had 66 GMs and we had over 300 players, which is bigger than even like Gen Con as far as turnout goes. So we're hoping something that big can happen again for Beginner Box Days. And if other companies, other hobbies wanted to replicate that, I would be all for it, because I know there's a lot of games I'd love to play that I still have those problems with, being able to find people to play with and, actually learn it in a safe environment. So I hope this is not the only Beginner Box Days, though it is going to be our tradition to run Beginner Box Days for Pathfinder.
Speaking of...
one second. I got something first. Hector Vivas says, I may have missed it, but is this only in English?
There could very well be GMs who are offering it in different languages. Last year we had 4 tables who were Spanish speakers. But it all depends on the GM. We're trying to get as many people as possible, but it all depends on who volunteers to step up and GM. So if you are someone who is a non-English speaker and you want to GM, or if you've ever thought about GMing, the Beginner Box is a perfect opportunity to break into it. And if you sign up for Beginner Box Days and you're able to speak German, French, Russian, I don't think Russians are going to be joining us with everything that's going on, but if you're able to provide that service so that more people who are outside of the English speaking community can play, I'm all for that. I would love to see it.
Is there a way, where they're signing up, they can see if tables are offered in Spanish or the like?
The GM just needs to include that information on their table title, but that's going to be at the GM's discretion to add that information.
Okay. Sorry, you were going to say there, Glue Boy?
I was going to read the exact same chat message.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. It's a good question to ask.
It is. I wish my Spanish was good enough to run, but I just don't use it anymore. My Spanish was really, really good a few years ago, and then I moved to an area with just no Spanish speakers at all, and then it's gone. I don't know. It's nowhere to be found. But we do have a lot of audience members who are like South America, or Portuguese even. And
we have found the biggest population of players is in Brazil, Peru, and Australia, and then a pretty big slice in Germany too. And part of the reason why those communities really love Pathfinder is because the rules are freely accessible. Shipping down to those countries is a nightmare now. It is crazy expensive. It takes a long time. Not to mention that for those other books, you have to get them printed in different languages. And I always think it's really neat when I'm going through Twitter and I see the core rule book, which I'm so familiar with, but it has, different lettering on the front of it. I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. I kind of wish I could get it, but it would also just sit on my shelf gathering dust. But because these rules are freely available on Archives of Nethys, on Demiplane's Pathfinder Nexus actually also has a free rules compendium. Everyone thinks you have to pay money to get access to everything, and you don't. You just have to pay to get access to the, you know, Paizo specific stuff, the stuff that they keep out of the community use policy. But they have a free rules compendium as well. So anyone anywhere in the world can access these rules. So even if you don't play the beginner box, you can still start playing Pathfinder completely for free anyway.
That's really cool. I'm always excited whenever I get comments on my videos or anything that people love this stuff. They just wish there was more multilingual. If my channel gets big enough, one of the things I want to do is open several multilingual channels for those countries, and just, you know, pay someone to dub over all my content for other countries, because I feel like that's it's a smart business move, because I think your input cost is incredibly low compared to what you can output. But two, it's just in a lot of these countries, it's just not feasible to play tabletop, or the same tabletop that a lot of other people are playing, because the costs are just outrageous, or shipping, or even their economy can just be so poor that, like, getting a book could be a small fortune by their standards. And it's something that, like, as a avid tabletop, like, fan as myself, and someone who has had their life changed by tabletop overall, I wish to give out to more people. So whatever can be done that allows people to access, like, stuff like this, events like this, I would love to see a lot more push for, like, an international style community for these games. I think that would be a really big step for tabletop.
I have been seeing more remote PaizoCons, or at least they're advertised as PaizoCons. Paizo staff can't really go to these places, but people are organizing Paizo conventions in their local areas. So make sure that you are, following Paizo on Twitter, and getting their newsletter and stuff, so you can find out about those opportunities. I think it'd be totally cool to fly down to Australia for a Paizo oriented convention, but it's also hella expensive.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Glue Boy, right? You're fluent in Norwegian now, and I know you've been doing a lot of Duolingo. And you can sign up, run some Norwegian only tables. There you go.
Yeah, if the game will fully consist of calling all of your family members nice, smart, or tall, because, like, Duolingo really covers those bases. I can order coffee, and then that'll be the game.
Yep. I can tell people I like the library in Spanish, and ask where the bathroom is.
A perfect campaign.
That is all that I remember of 3 semesters of college grade Spanish classes that I was required to take.
You've retained more than my 2 years of high school Spanish that I was also forced to take.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a city that was like 50% Hispanic people, so, like, for me, it was a lot of fun, and I used a lot of Spanish for there's days I used to work at Macy's in the suit department, and I would speak nothing but Spanish all day, just because that was all who came in for that day, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But it's been like 7 years since I've lived in Wenatchee, and it's been, unfortunately, one of those skills that you either use it or lose it.
Yep. You gotta be constantly using it. I am firmly in the camp that if you're not starting early in, grade school, teaching people, other languages, that you have to like move somewhere where that is the only language that they speak. Be forced to learn in it, get your brain to turn that switch on. Because, yeah, just learning vocab words doesn't cut it. But anyway, I'm also watching your chat. As far as like being another language content creator, I would love to see more of them. The third party con roundtable, which was about how to get more Spanish speakers into the TTRPG publishing sphere, was a hugely attended event comparatively to other things that were happening in the stream. So this desire is out there. Hope that if you are even thinking about it, that you'll take that a little bit further beyond just thinking about it and actually doing it, because you will be listened to. There are not a lot of other people doing it, and so you will be the groundbreaker for this medium, and that would be a pretty powerful thing, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, that's kind of one of my dreams is to open up a channel like that. But even then, even if I did that, I wouldn't be able to properly respond to like comments or even really building. I'd have to hire people to operate that community, as best as possible. And it's just unfortunate because, even if I wanted to, there's only so many languages I could learn or have the time to learn. So it's
if
I
it's
do
not
think
your job, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. I do think we are moving into a age. I mean, you're talking about how the OGL kind of opened a lot of, I guess, windows, not doors necessarily, but opened a lot of windows for people to see what's kind of going on around. And it's my earnest hope and desire that tabletop is in kind of an era of, we're going to start seeing more people fighting back against, big corporate D&D and doing some really fun stuff, because honestly, there's no reason why everyone should be playing the same tabletop game forever.
No. If it's like if you went to someone's house and the only board game that they had was Monopoly, you would stop playing there. It's boring.
You have weekly Monopoly nights.
Right.
That would be so taxing.
Honestly.
But like, I have found that some of the best board games even are not the ones that you see typically on the Walmart or Target bookshelves. The ones made for the widest audience possible, apples to apples, or Sorry or something like that. It's the ones
multitude of like the Cards Against Humanity clones that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
It's ones like, one of my favorites is called Last Night on Earth. It's a zombie board game. There's one out there where you get to play as kaiju. There's one that is all about rolling dice and like picking up new dice and rolling even more dice. I forget what it's called. They're all downstairs, and it's just a matter of getting people to try playing it. And the big problem is people not having that willingness to try something new, to sit through the learning process. And that's also what I love about the beginner box, is that it's not a matter of sitting down, having someone do a 30-minute lecture at you about how to play, what are rules, what are dice. There are definitely places you could go for someone to give that speech. Countless videos. My own podcast is about learning how to play Pathfinder 2e. But the beginner box lets you just sit down and do it. You're gonna go up if you were at a physical game table, right, at a game store, and someone just had the map for the beginner box out, and you sat down at the table. What they would do is they would give you the 4 pre-generated characters, the fighter, the rogue, the wizard, and the cleric, and be like, which one you want to play? Be like, I'll take this one. Be like, cool. I'm going to tell you to do things, and then you're going to roll this dice. And it gets you right into it because it explains so well how to do each of the actions within that class. Teaches you very well about how to do combat with. I forgot to mention this earlier. One of the coolest things that they have are these cheat sheet cards. They're like that big or so. And they have like different conditions that you're probably going to encounter during this adventure. They have a couple of common actions. God, I wish that these things were sold outside of the beginner box too, as just like, what if I could do a Kickstarter? I've seen this before, but I don't know that it got a lot of traction. I would love to see a player player screen where it's not like the GM screen that's like this high and it hides half of your face. It's like maybe 6 inches high, has kind of like a little overview of the rules that you can just sit in front of you. I think that would be rad as hell.
Yeah, like little standable cheat sheets for stuff.
Yeah,
because I've had my buddies had some like customized, like some custom DM screens that essentially were just like that. They were little cheat sheets to make sure you had everything in place. So yeah, on a player end, that'd be a really cool product.
I am not the right one to put that into practice, but if you take my idea and you run with it, I expect to get some
kickback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of one of the things that shows the tabletop field are going forward, because the GM screen was just kind of this concept of the GM has a place to hide their dice, and as well, the GM is going to have all the rules there so they can tell you what to do. But we're kind of moving into an era where it's like, you don't need only the GM to just know everything. It would be nice if players had, like index cards or something that help them with various statuses or something. Anything to really just not pile everything onto the GM. Because I feel like that is the major problem with tabletop as it stands currently, which is the GM has to make the game, make the maps, run the world, play the characters, help players with their characters, all this kind of stuff. And there's not a lot to help alleviate that because we just don't have this culture around it so far of like player responsibility. It's supposed to be a cooperative narrative experience, not a live service done by a professional GM where they do everything for you, Yeah. And that's always... Go ahead.
It does take a special person to want to become the game master of any game, because it does inherently involve more work, more responsibility. You are the computer that the players are playing against, essentially, which is why I even say, like, as much as I love Pathfinder, and I do love Pathfinder because I talk about it constantly, Monster of the Week is one of my favorites. Powered by the Apocalypse is a fantastic system for GMs, because you don't roll any dice at all. You are just there to be a storyteller, and every decision that's made is made by the players, and how you react to the players. There's, definitely some rules about like what a dice roll result means and things like that, but it is exceptionally freeing to just be able to sit there, tell a story, bring up challenges, and not have to look at anything or, stat blocks or anything like that. And that is kind of why I always come back to the philosophy of just try other games. You don't have to stick with one. You don't have to, switch just between the most popular one and a little one. You could play dozens of games. It just takes the willingness to try and want to explore, to do something outside of your comfort zone. There are games I probably will never play, never have a desire to play, like Vampire the Masquerade. A lot of people say that's super fun. Doesn't sound like my cup of tea, but I would love to sit down and play Blades in the Dark, for example, which doesn't work exactly like Powered by the Apocalypse system, but it's something new. And getting to that point of actually wanting to try, I think, has been the biggest hurdle, and that's the biggest benefit that OGL could have possibly given us, is getting people to think about that. And I hope it translates to numbers with beginner box days. I would have loved to actually be running beginner box days when all that stuff has happened, because then I could have been like, hey, we got a thing. Come over here.
The perfect timing for that.
It totally would have been. And it was really cool to see that some people took the initiative on themselves to run like their own beginner boxes. I know the rules lawyer did it. I know I saw dozens of individual posts to be like, hey, if you want to run a game, I will run a game for you. And that's kind of, I think, the power of the Pathfinder beginner box specifically, is it makes it so easy to join. It makes it so easy to run, that this is something that I would feel very comfortable, with an hour's notice running a game for people. And that can't be said of every game, because not every game is made to be that beginner friendly. Some of them you do have to sit there and study a rule book like it's a college course. A lot of people think you have to do that for Pathfinder, even though the rules are actually just 6% of the entire big core rule book. If there is one outcome of beginner box day, it's not that people start playing Pathfinder, though I hope that they do. It's that I hope that they see that D&D is not the end-all be-all of mechanical genius. In fact, there are so many people who play the Pathfinder for the first time who are like, why have I been banging my head against this system to make it work for all this time?
Yeah.
And I don't even think Pathfinder should be the everything game. People try to make D&D the everything game, like having D&D in space, having D&D in modern times. I wouldn't even want that for Pathfinder, though attempts are definitely being made. I would rather play a system that is well designed for that genre. The need to always come back and reskin the same game over and over and over again. But maybe that's just me.
I agree. Before I guess we move on to anything else, so this beginner box days, this is an online thing, right? Is it through a specific VTT that you guys are doing it, or like how does it actually work? Because I know there's a place people can go to sign up or everything.
Yeah.
But I think to visualize for the people who are interested what it might be like, how does it work?
Sure. So the first thing that you do is you go to beginpf2.com. If you don't remember that website, hopefully you remember the R Pathfinder 2e subreddit, because we have information about it too, or the R Pathfinder 2e Discord channel. All three of them will take you to that website. If you want to start a game, go to the GM information page, and we have a step-by-step guide about how to register a game and what you'll ultimately need to do to be able to run a game. The big thing is that when you go to RPG Chronicles, that you enter the code, the numerical code for Beginner Box Days, which we have on the website. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. And part of why I made a website is so I wouldn't have to remember it off the top of my head. You can go there and you can look at it. Once you have a game set up in RPG Chronicles, your game will show up on the public dashboard and people will be able to sign up and join. I do want to mention for both game masters and players, last year on Beginner Box Days, it was a mandatory Pathfinder Society game. We had to report, we had to do Pathfinder Society stuff, you had to get a Pathfinder Society number. And I realized that not everyone wants to do that. I think you should, because Pathfinder Society is really fun and not nearly as complicated as people think. But this year, these games are totally optional to be Society credit or not. If you want to earn Society credit, you can earn it very easily, because all that a game master has to do once they get to the end of their session is go back onto RPG Chronicles, go onto their session sheet, click next, and then change a box to ready to report, and they're done. That is literally all a GM has to do to report their game to get Pathfinder Society credit. For players, though, when you're ready to sign up, again, go to beginpf2.com and then go to the player section. That's going to have all the information you need to play, including a link directly to that session dashboard that shows every available game, every available table. There's a couple things to know. First off, the beginner box is 2 levels. There's an upper level and a lower level. The upper level is the one you want to start with first. It is the one that is made to be for beginners, a very slow and steady introduction into each and every mechanic that you will normally use for Pathfinder. So it starts off with combat, then goes to a skill check, then goes to a combat where you kind of have to use some of the skills, even has puzzles in it. Then you find out a little bit about conditions and hazards and stuff. So it's a very beginner-friendly level. The lower level is more advanced, which isn't to say harder. Just it's going to use the knowledge that you learned from the first level and start to apply it in different ways, where you have to start going into combat and doing things that aren't just move, strike. You need to learn to do things like take cover, aid people, do knowledge checks. And so that's what the lower level is going to do by slowly introducing more diverse kind of combat encounters, more diverse challenges, where you're going to have to not just roll dice, but you're going to have to start to think and start to really utilize this mechanical system that the Paizo people spent such a long time developing and refining. It is really well done once you actually start to get into the nitty-gritty of playing a Pathfinder game. So, once you have found either an upper or a lower, or hopefully you can play both. You don't have to play with the same GM. Part of this whole experience of setting it up as public, as first come, first serve, is that if you are able to play with one GM at one time and then another GM at another time, even if it's not the same GM, you can do that. You can just join that other game. Once you have, come to the R Pathfinder 2e Discord. That's where we're going to have most of the information about any deals that we happen to work out. If someone wants to get in contact with me and have like a sale or something, it's where we're going to communicate out any big changes that happen. Like the server went down for a little bit, and that was where we did an announcement to say like, hey, it's down, we're trying to get it back up. But it's also where you're going to find your GM and start to talk to them about what to do for your game. They're going to give you all the information that you need to log into the VTT that they're running the beginner box on, because that can run as far as VTT Foundry to Fantasy Grounds to Roll20, or even just using the PDF on something. Once they give you the information, give you the character access, you're going to be able to make your own character. And again, you can play either a pre-generated character that has everything you need to experience the class that you chose. It's the most fightery fighter, the most wizardy wizard that you can play. Or you can make your own. And if you want to make your own, just work with your GM to see if they have any limitations. I'm the kind of GM who would be fine with someone being like, I want to play Gloma Thaumaturge. That is absolutely not something you should try doing as a first level character, just because there are a lot more nitty gritty things about being a Thaumaturge or being a Gloma. But I'm fine with it. Other GMs might just want you to stick to the common ancestries and the core classes. It's all up to what the GM prefers to do. I see a comment. Can I play a playtest kineticist? You need to talk to your GM about that. I think that the playtest kineticist works, but it might be that a GM isn't comfortable running that. The other problem being that if you want to run the playtest kineticist, that is probably not programmed into a VTT. You would have to build it up from scratch, all the mechanical things, or just have a character sheet written down and then rolling dice and then putting a little bit extra work on the GM to like apply your conditions, apply your damage, roll the strikes against you. Playing with a integrated class and ancestry is going to be easier on you, and it's going to be easier on the GM. After you're done playing, that does not have to be the end of your adventure. First off, like I said before, anyone can get credit from playing the beginner box and apply it towards Pathfinder Society. It gives you a certain amount of gold, a certain amount of XP, and a certain amount of reputation points, which again, I have written down on the website and don't remember off the top of my head, for both levels. So if you play one level, you'll get that amount, and if you play the other level, you'll get that additional amount. So you get even more XP, more gold, more reputation. And you can use that stuff to make a better, spiffier, a little bit richer character for Pathfinder Society than if you were just starting from scratch. It's like giving yourself a bonus to making a new character. And all that you have to do to have a Pathfinder Society account is to log on to Paizo's website, go to your org account, and click a button that says, I want to join Pathfinder Society. And then it does it. You're in. You get a number, you put that on your RPG Chronicles sheet, and fill out a couple little bits of extra information, and your GM will be able to send you a Chronicle sheet at the end that you can apply towards any Pathfinder Society character that you want. Pathfinder Society is something that goes on not just in America, but globally, like we were talking about. In fact, they just released a really excellent webpage called Start Pathfinder Society, or Start Playing Society. And that has links to the global regions. It has all the instructions you need to start to play Pathfinder Society, either virtually or in person. So even if you are one of those people that has trouble finding a group of your friends to play, you could play with a group of friendly strangers at conventions, at local gaming stores, or even private events. You can absolutely run Pathfinder Society as a home group. So Pathfinder Society is how I found my current group of players. I started running it on at my friendly local game store, and found some people that I really vibed with, and was like, hey, do you want to run this bigger campaign at my place? And that's how I got this group that has been together for the last 2 years. So Society can be a really good way for you to get into the game beyond just playing on beginner box days. We also, on the R Pathfinder 2e Discord, have a place where GMs can advertise for games that they want to run, either paid or free. And there's a place where lonely players can say, hey, I'm available during this time. Anyone have a free game? And there probably is someone who could use another seat at the table and can get back to you and say, hey, do you want to play in our Age of Ashes campaign? Do you want to play in my homebrew game that I have going on at this time? So beginner box days is the start of your adventure. It is by no means an end, and I hope that you will continue your journey into Pathfinder.
I do not believe Society uses the free archetype rule, unfortunately.
Yeah. The one part about Society that is a little bit harder to grasp is that not everything is available instantly. You have to use those XP points, those reputation points, or achievement points to be able to earn better things, different classes, different archetypes, different ancestries, especially the ones that aren't common. So that's also part of why you might want to consider, even if you're not sure that you're interested in Society, still getting that Society credit so that if you ever do want to start playing in it, you'll have those points ready for whenever.
Anything you wanted to ask, Blue Boy?
Actually, I am curious of if this is something that's been touched on slightly, but I guess with it being unlinked with Pathfinder Society, how much freedom do the sign-up DMs get when they're constructing a game? Does it have to be through like a single module, or can they implement all like? Can they say do just like a homebrew one-shot kind of deal?
For Society?
Oh, not for Society. For specifically this like beginner box.
Oh, okay.
Type event.
So that will be, again, mostly on you as a GM. There is one particular encounter that I switch up, personally, because I don't like how it's run. I've never been a fan of having a bunch of repetitious fights where it's the same kind of creature. You just encounter them in more amounts at other points. And so I switch it with a different kind of creature, but I keep it at the same severity level. If you were running a table, like a physical beginner box, part of what they include is not just pawns for the adventure that they have written out for you, but they have a lot of extra pawns, other monsters, that you could run. So you could absolutely change the game up, and they also include stats for all of those creatures. So if you wanted to have your characters go up against like bugbears rather than spiders, because people are, afraid of spiders sometimes, you could do that. You can make that switch super easy. If you do, I really recommend, especially on Foundry VTT, they have these this new fancy pawn set, which is all of the creatures from the bestiaries between 1 and 3, and even I believe Book of the Dead 2. These are really nice looking tokens. You don't have to find artwork for them. The mechanics in the tokens just work. So if you did feel like switching something out and it's not part of the original adventure, that's a really good way to keep that feeling going than, dropping down the default token that's like some weird square head guy.
True. So this is all run through like Foundry and stuff.
It doesn't have to be. Again, there are modules made for Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. I just haven't played on them, so I can't really speak to them. I will say Foundry is the community favorite. It is probably, I think many people would argue, the best virtual tabletop to run Pathfinder on. That said, even though it's the best program for Pathfinder, I don't always think it's the best program. So there might be other VTTs out there or upcoming ones that blow it out of the water. But probably most GMs are going to be playing this on Foundry, yeah.
Looking at our constant Foundry issues for our Lancer live play game.
Yeah.
Like, Foundry is such a cool tool. Like, it's so fun turning, like, essentially a tabletop, role-play war game into what feels like a CRPG with all the really cool tools they have. And I'm itching to play Pathfinder in it. I got my wizard. I can't wait for finally to have cones that I can use.
Yeah.
Like lines and, like, spheres. I'm so excited.
Yep. It is also pretty great to play one that has put a lot of dedicated work into Pathfinder. That is one thing that I think could be said for Fantasy Grounds over Roll20 and or can be said for Foundry rather than Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, is the large consensus is that there wasn't a lot of Roll20 support for Pathfinder. I think that that's changing now, which is really good. I think that they saw the sea change coming. I don't know about Fantasy Grounds, though. I know that it worked. I wasn't a huge fan of playing it on there. I would, if I had all the money in the world, I would absolutely throw it in, some small percentage of it, into building a Pathfinder specific VTT, because I think that's part of the problem is both Fantasy Grounds and Roll20 and Foundry are all made to be virtual tabletops. They need to run many different games, which means that they're not perfectly built for any one of them. But if you had one that was specifically made for Pathfinder, it would run beautifully, I think.
Yeah, because we used to do Roll20, like a lot of Roll20 stuff. And while Roll20 is, I think, an easier program to use for a lot of people, there's a lot more ease of access, especially from the fact that it's not like a direct peer-to-peer link between someone's computer and the weird just issues that keep having to be fixed that pop up for no reason in our actual play. But on the other hand, Roll20 is a little like stuttery and doesn't run the greatest. Like, I have no idea why my computer can run like the new top of the line games, but the moment you use dynamic lighting in Roll20, just freezes to a halt.
Yep. Which is why there is nothing that makes me pine for in-person gaming more than a virtual tabletop. I know they're the new big thing. They connect us. They connect the world. They're a great thing for us to have. But there's nothing like the energy of having a physical table, having your friends there, even if they're using virtual assistants, like most people use Path Builder for character sheets now on their phone, you know?
That's what I use.
But having real click-clack dice, having pawns, a map on there, everyone sitting at a table, that is real gaming to me, and it's why I'm so mad at COVID. COVID had silver linings as far as like getting us to recognize we have huge economical problems that need to be fixed, and getting people to be able to work remote, and changing how we view a lot of things. But it did take away my tabletop in-person gaming, and I'm mad about that.
Yeah.
Mad about a lot of things about COVID. Obviously, death is really bad, but I got to play it at Physical PaizoCon last year, and that was a blast, even with masks on. But even with masks on, it wasn't perfect. A couple people still ended up getting COVID, so I totally understand why this year is totally virtual again. I am worried that there won't ever be a hybrid version, at least, where people can go up to Seattle and get to see everybody in a big community space again. But that's something that we're all going to have to wrestle with, and especially people who don't take a life-threatening pandemic seriously need to wrestle with and get off of their asses about. But that's politics. We're not here to talk about politics.
True, but I mean, still, the point is relevant. It would be great if we could just play tabletop with our friends in person. For sure. I do think that physical cons will come back after a time when people miss that being there and the experience of actually like attending a physical con. Because like I've been to physical cons and I've done the online ones as well, and the online just doesn't have the same energy to it in the end. It's always nice to be there, to walk around, to see things, to hold things. It's always really nice rather than seeing like flat 2D images of like, oh, look at this board game. It's like, I would love to if I could hold it or something, because it never feels the same. I know for myself, we're finally getting a house, and
well, congratulations.
Thank you. It was
it's a colossal mistake. I wish I hadn't done it.
Well, fortunately,
if you can find a good place, it's great. Yeah.
It's the first house for me and my fiance, so it's it's gonna kick some stuff off. But what I'm really excited about is there's a really good space that we're thinking about turning into like a gaming space where on my computer, my recording stuff, but we'll also have like a big table, and we'll probably get to do the first ever in-person like live play for the channel, and the first in-person game I've had since a decade ago.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be so energizing. When my group finally felt comfortable enough getting back in person, because we were all boosted, triple booster, get it, keep getting it. Flu season had passed. Everyone had their flu shots. We're all tested negative, and it'd been safe. We're like, okay, we're gonna do it. That was July, and it was a blast. And then everyone else screwed it up for everyone else, and we all had to go back to virtual things. But we're back to in-person gaming now. and it is my favorite game. There's a game I've been playing for 4 years, and this in-person one is definitely overtaken it because it is just so much more fun being at a table and rolling dice. But if we didn't have VTTs, we wouldn't be able to run beginner box days, bringing it around full circle. My throat's getting sore, so I'm gonna leave your audience with this. Beginner box days is on April 22nd and goes till April 30th. If you want to be a GM, you can get a free copy of the beginner box PDF by going to begin PF2, signing up at the same time that you create your own session on rpgchronicles.net. And if you're a player, this is the best time possible for you to get to try a new game, to meet new people, and to expand your overall horizon, even if you don't stick with Pathfinder. There's a lot of great reasons to keep playing Pathfinder, but this is just a free opportunity for you to just give it a go. So make sure that you register before seats are taken up, and we'll see you at Beginner Box Day.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you on, of course, and maybe we'll do so again in the future if you're doing anything else real cool. I always like to. There's no one better I could send for people who are looking to get into the community in some form or another. So for sure, you do a great service, sir, and we're glad to have you here.
Thank
and
you.
this entire event is such a cool thing to just host for a community, because the thing that happens all the time, you're like, I really want to try out this game, but you have to hope that someone in your friends group is just a hyper nerd for whatever game. Like, you've been playing 5e all your life and no one plays Pathfinder. Well, this is the perfect time. And then even then, the extra little benefits, since it's all through Discord and such, there's a non-zero chance you try out the beginner box and you learn you mesh really well with the people you're playing with. And then there you go. That's a kickstart right to a campaign, some new friends. There's a lot of benefits from just taking that step. I mean, I did that. I went to Adventures League to decide, hey, I should do something social and not be in my room all day. And then I met Cam, and here I am.
Yeah.
It happens. You can be slingshotted into being part of a Twitch stream promoting an event like this. It happens. So totally, give this a shot if for any reason you're listening to this and want to try out Pathfinder.
Absolutely. And if you ever have any questions about it, you can ask us on our Pathfinder 2e subreddit or on our Discord channel, which I also should have mentioned earlier when we were talking about it. We also have a dedicated Spanish Discord channel for Pathfinder 2e that you can find on our Pathfinder 2e subreddit on our sidebar. Hope that either of you two maybe will run your own game. Maybe.
I wish, but I'm moving.
I've sworn off DMing.
Okay, that's fine. But
I will say you've tempted me. Partway through is maybe. That was no, stop. You stopped DMing because you realized you hated it. Please don't do this.
Another chance. I think you'd like it.
I was looking at the sign up sheet longingly, and I was like, this might not be the best idea.
If I was not moving literally in the middle of all this, I would be more than happy to. But moving is a bitch.
If you're a listener, you should give it a try. Give it a try GMing, give it a try playing. So that's all I got to say about that. So I'll end with my tagline, which is, don't let the rules rule you.
All right. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, before you go,
send
me a link to the Discord. And
for sure.
Both the links to the Discords and I see we have the website because I forgot to do this, but I'll add it to the description of this VOD on YouTube when we're done. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm bad at adding links. I need to add links more to stuff ahead of time. So I'll be more than happy to take that from you. Thank you so much.
And there you go. Done.
All right, Danke.
All right.
All right,
Have a
have a
good
nice
night,
day.
y'all.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Let me go ahead and recombobble some things here real quick.
Yeah. Get this Discord thing out of the way.
Let's see here. Oh, I gotta deactivate this. But that is awesome. I am so stoked for a big event like this. This is a perfect time, especially because we're kind of right now in a bit of a downslope from the hype for Pathfinder that has come after the OGL debacle.
Mhm.
A lot of people have simmered down a little bit, and so a big event like this is a good way to see the people who are still kind of itching to try out Pathfinder, to give them a chance to come in. And it's a great community. I mean, Pete's a really great guy. I can't imagine anyone better to run something like this. He's super passionate about it, and he's a big tabletop advocate like I myself. So I wish I could do more to actually help, but my God, my life is being held together by glue and duct tape at the moment, and I need to take some time to shore things up a little bit. But
Yeah, I get you. Cause yeah, I mean, I was legit looking at like that both ends of that and be like, oh, that'd be cool, but that's not the great idea. I don't have the most free time, and I don't like DMing, and I'm not gonna DM first time Pathfinder for a bunch of people to get it into it. I'd be too stressed the whole time. Though, I think this is I thought of this during this like whole stream, but I have a feeling in the future, or at least not even a feeling. I hope this happens. I want to know if you've had this experience, or if you've been the person in this situation, like on the other side. You ever like go to a friend's house as a kid and they have some weird board game you've never heard of and can never find again, but like they have it and it's like the best game you've ever played? You ever had that situation?
yes, but it was my family has a cabin, and we went up to the cabin, and there's this old war game that like my uncle bought when he was a kid. So it was like from the 80s. And it looked really cool, and it's gone now, and I have no idea what it is. But yeah, so I've kind of had that.
Because like there is a timeline where that's going to happen with tabletop games, like actual RPGs. Like there's going to be a time, hopefully, where down the line it's like, oh yeah, my friend growing up had this random game. I don't know what it was called, but like we were in some weird dark city. There was no sun, like stuff like that, where it's just like, it's a commonplace thing where you just try out new games. I hope that's the future, because that's me with like, there's 2 board games out there that I adore, but I have never found a physical version of them or a complete physical version. It's the card game Guillotine, if you ever played that. That game rules. It is like just a deck of cards with like a big piece of cardboard, and it's like in the middle, and it's just like the French Revolution, and you're trying to get as many heads as possible. And like there's a lot of playing around, like getting points, stealing like heads from people. Like it's really fun. My buddy had it, and then the other one was Killer Bunnies, which I know for a fact I've talked about on TableTalk. It had like so many expansions. I love that game to death, but I've never been able to find it like anywhere. And I hope one day that happens to tabletop, where like growing up, my friend had this weird PDF, and we played some random tabletop game that I can never track down since, because that means trying new tabletop games that are just D&D and Pathfinder is so prevalent that like you can just forget what some are and play some a bunch as a kid and then never hear about it again.
See, I think it just really needs to turn into people not running multi-year long campaigns for tabletop. I think
just
that's
run like short shit.
Just run like 10, 20 session campaigns. short campaigns. I promise you'll play a lot more tabletop that way, and you'll play a lot more interesting tabletops that way.
As cool as like the stories of like the guy who's is in like the 50-year-long campaign.
Right.
Yeah, it's like that's cool and all, but that's not something to like drive yourself to.
Yeah, well, and
play other
it's
stuff.
There's so many times like completing a full campaign is a badge of honor of DMs.
Yeah.
And it's a badge of honor because it's so hard to go through a whole campaign in one sitting. Or not one sitting, but like with one group.
Yeah.
Because life and all kinds of stuff gets in the way. But, you know, like we're just about to finish Lancer, which will be 13 episodes, 13 sessions that are about close to 4 hours each. And I feel pretty good about it in the end. I think it's really good. I think it can be a much more in-depth game if you really wanted to. But I feel like I got enough out of the system to be like, okay, I'm good for now. I want to try something else. I might come back to it. I mean, its mech rolls are really, really fun. And if anything, just as a war game, kind of like do a sortie of like a particular mission, I think it's a really fun game for that, for sure.
I think if anything, it's the problem where the DM has a lot of legwork to do to make your game other than just a combat simulator.
Yeah,
you just have to have that extra legwork because the RP rules are like next to nothing.
Yeah, well, and they wrote a really expansive universe, but it's too expansive to like be like, hey, I just want to run something like in this city. Give me a city and tell me what's in it, and then I can do the rest, you know?
Yeah.
Animal Beyond Fantasy did really well because it made a very big, expansive world, but also you can read individual areas and you can look at like little blurbs of each city, and they also provide story seeds for that area, and it gives you such a nice bed where you can grow like whatever kind of story you want, like seed bed for whatever kind of story you want to make after that. And I've been doing tabletop for a long time, and I've been doing homebrew for a long time, and even in Anima I use those story seeds all the time, just throughout the campaigns.
They're good story seeds. I'm reading through those and like being like, damn, this is a really useful tool.
But I feel like people just need to kind of chill out with the big multi-year long campaigns and just need to be like, hey, for 2 months do we want to do this campaign? And then you can play that. And if anything, if you do want it to be a longer run thing, just make your story, segmented so that when you can do one thing and it can end, or you can pick it back up and continue on without any like major breaks. But there's just not a good way to there's no how-to manual to set that up. And I think that's what's missing.
You will have to expand on what the Yu-Gi-Oh! Story idea in the Absolute book is, because I'm immediately interested.
I don't remember that, but I didn't read it page to page.
I'm so excited for going back to Pathfinder.
Yeah,
I might be designing a retrograde mini for William.
Oh,
because
that'll be fun.
We'll need that. And actually, the retrograde mini site for human characters is both really like nice and expansive, and also a little limiting. It's kind of hard because if you want to make a martial or a spellcaster, you're set. If you want to make like a bard or something, good luck.
Yeah.
Or you want to make something that's not really humanoid, good luck.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, that's why I like tokens for the most part. But, that's the problem with live play, is trying not to steal people's art.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's because that's something you just have to take into account. It's something I have to do all the time in my videos, where I just do my absolute damnedest to not like yoink fan art, because that's the problem. People keep making cool fan art, and you're like, damn, this is so high quality. This has to be official. And like, nope.
But yeah, so I mean, the tabletop has a lot, I think, coming for it. And you know what's funny is D&D, Wizards of the Coast, are going to fuel a lot of this change, because it's either one, they're going to continue dropping the ball, and other game companies are going to be like, okay, what can we do to set ourselves apart? How can we draw people in who are falling off of this major tabletop game? Or two, they're going to be so starved to make revenue that they're just going to try a bunch of different things and unintentionally expand tabletop with those ideas. So yeah. I'm excited. I think that there's a lot to look forward to in the tabletop space, and with great events that Pete is running, and a lot of kind of the general ideas that people have in the community, even heck, what we want to do here on this channel, which is just expand people's gaming repertoire by introducing new games and the like. It's I think we're looking at a future where tabletop is just going to become more and more of something that people do. It might not ever be like video games. It's just they just take more energy and more creativity than some people are willing to make. And sometimes you just kind of want to sit down and do something mindlessly, and that's not tabletop. So
yeah.
But if it can at least be as like common as board gaming, or even more common than board gaming, I'll be happy, because there's obviously a big desire for people to play tabletop. You would be surprised how many people are like, I don't like it, and then they tried it and been like, oh man, that was really fun. Heck, that's kind of why it's been like showing up in like TV, media, all that kind of stuff, movies. Stranger Things really got a lot of people interested in the idea of it. Was it Parks and Rec? No, it wasn't Parks and Rec. What was the other one?
Community,
yeah. That also got a lot of people interested in it. Like, there's a lot out there that get people interested in tabletop, and a lot of people who play tabletop is like, that's really great. You can't expect them to then start playing tabletop regularly once a week, at least, from that point on. But it is great for if, like, it's like video games, right? It's like you'll go through a few months where there's no games that you really like or whatever, but then you'll find one that you really do like, and you'll play that for a few months. And that could be tabletop, and just, hey, let's play a short campaign in 2 months or so. Bam. Done. Easy. You had a good time. And then you can wait for the next one, go back to one that you liked, or, take it at your own pace. Because that's something I have to remind myself of, that there are people who it's best they don't play tabletop regularly.
Yeah. Yeah. I know people like that, so.
We need automated space communism so people have more time to play TTRPGs with me. Yes, exactly.
True.
We just need to start mining resources from other planets. It's fine.
Easy money.
Easy, literally. All you have to do is logistics. Get some nerd on it.
Damn, I feel like I had some good point and like lead in to this, but I lost it. I deadlifted too hard today. That's the problem with Wednesday table talk. It's the hardest day at the gym. It's deadlift, dude. I'm fucking like very tired, but I'm giving my all.
That's okay. We're almost done. We can be done if we really want to. We're in the last 20 minutes or so. And honestly, as well, This is a busy week for me as well because I have another table talk tomorrow at noon Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to hang out with me and the local disaster tour guide, we will be here on YouTube and Twitch tomorrow, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, as that's the time he goes by. And we're just gonna talk. We're gonna talk about getting onto YouTube for the first time, making a channel, and our growth because we're relatively within the same size as each other at this time. So I think it's gonna be a very interesting look into like the content creator space for Pathfinder 2e specifically, and as well. Speaking of. We're a couple subs away from 2.5k, and that's nuts. We just hit 2k like a couple weeks into February, so that's pretty good. Half a thousand in almost 2 months, less than 2 months.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And the channel is going to be growing here soon. I have a strong feeling that once we hit 3k, it's going to start really moving forward. And Rage of Elements is going to be coming up. Like, we're going to hit 3k, and then we're going to hit Rage of Elements right after that, and we'll probably hit 4k like in a month or more. Social Blade has my channel getting to 10,000 by December 31st. Ooh. Last day of the year.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
Stuff like that makes me wish I could have a Social Blade page, but apparently I guess newer active YouTube channels, like there's just a new thing they put in. Because I wasn't making videos years ago, it's gonna take them a lot longer to get Social Blade analytics.
Yeah, it's so strange. And the weird part is you can't even put @Glueboy, which is your channel handle.
Yeah, because it's just some guy who's like claim to fame. He's doing a Chris Chan song cover.
Yeah, he has 7 uploads and 188 subscribers.
Yeah, and I 1K and 50 something, and 50 something and 1 since tomorrow a new video's coming out on everybody's favorite Primarch, apparently, Sanguinius. I made a joke in my video that I'm convinced that some of my troubles just in production of making this video are due to the fact of karmic justice for me angering so many 40k fans by saying that Sanguinius is just a boring Conrad Kurz.
Yeah.
And then the moment I work to make a Sanguinius video, everything collapses.
Yeah, you can't put down people's husbandos, especially in Warhammer.
Yeah, that's Sanguinius. When I think you could be honest with yourself and brave and not boring, and pick the unhinged psychopath over the perfect hawk boy. One is more fun.
But vampire space marines.
Listen, I'll take my 40k waifu or whatever to be screaming at a flesh sculpture of his dad than weeping a single tear that his wings were chaos corruption.
Mine's easy. I either have a big red dude or an angry sorcerer.
Yeah. Well, angry and a lot of times just depressed. Armin is a very sad man.
He is a very sad man.
He's very sad.
It's because nothing ever goes his way.
No, every time he tries to help.
He literally gets clowned on by literal space clowns.
Yeah, it's all right though. he got a book out. He stole a book from the Black Library, as stated inside of the Eldar Codex, because not even the Eldar Codex will give the Eldar a win. I'd love to see it.
It's great. So but to each their own. I have my space sorcerer Egyptians They have their space vampire marines.
Weird. To each, according to my own. Enjoy my taste. My taste in 40k. You have to love Custodes, and then the Black Legion, and that's it. Just those two factions, because they are the best.
But yeah, man, I have actually no idea what my favorite Loyalists Legion is.
That's a good question to figure out. There's a lot of really cool ones, I'll be honest. Because I don't think there's a Loyalist chapter that I don't like. Actually, Grey Knights. I'm not a fan of Grey Knights, but because I just don't like how they were written for a long time.
Grey Knights are pretty cool, though. I do
they
like
have
the
some good
of
shit.
Grey Knights.
It's just some of it is like, I just don't like how it was written initially, but they've improved a lot since then. They're a lot more legitimate, and I will say the Grey Knight video game slaps.
Yeah.
That game rules.
I'm also just a psyker net, so, you know.
Yeah, that's all they are.
Pretty much.
Oh, you're right. You reminded me the Ultramarines exist. Well, it's kind of boring to hate the Ultramarines now. I don't like them. I think Gilliman is good, though. New Gilliman is great, because he's just stressed out of his fucking mind having to deal with all this. And now he gets his brother back, and we'll see how he reacts.
You know, but...
I want to see him talk so bad.
You know what Legion is really cool to get into right now? Dark Angels. True.
You're getting your Primarch.
You get your Primarch. Get a really good mini now. He's got some real. He's a really he's got a lot of drip. Is what I'm trying to say.
He does.
I was gonna say fly, but
he also looks exactly like Tywin Lannister from the Game of Thrones show. If just Tywin Lannister had a bigger mustache, he's just him, that actor. It's great. Which, to be fair, if there's anyone to pick for Lionel Johnson, it's that.
True.
And honestly, even if you don't want to run Lionel Johnson, you have a new model for Azrael, who is really cool, actually. Azrael is a really good character, besides the whole memeing that TTS has done to his name, making him this like neurotic, stressed out, paranoid wreck. He's actually kind of a cool guy.
He do got that riz, that's for sure.
He does.
Especially with the hooded helmets.
Oh my god, I love that one.
So good.
Just the hood and the hooded helmet are like so good.
Yeah, it's just great. And you know who has a great video on that? That's Glue Boy here. So if you want a slight introduction into the Dark Angels, you can watch his video on the Lion himself. And do you have a Dark Angels army review yet?
I do, but it's bad. You can watch it. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to stop you, but I don't like it. But, it's up to you. I remember I said in my video, I really don't like my Dark Angels video, and I got like a comment or two saying, oh, I like that one, though. I'm like, how? How do you like it? But that's also because I'm my worst critic. But yeah, I have both of those. If for whatever reason you want to get into the tabletop of actually playing Dark Angels, at the end of that video at least, I go into a good amount of the rules and like how you actually run a Dark Angels force. And and a really good setup for Lionel Johnson, because he's got a lot of really cool lore. His story is fantastic, even though I'm not a giant fan of him. I still think he's all right. He's a decent like mid-tier Primarch, but his actual like content of his story and the people around him are really cool.
So I'm curious, right? 10th edition will be coming out soon.
Most likely, we actually might have a date, because UK does a funny little thing of commemorative stamps. It's probably coming out in June, because we're getting a Warhammer stamp on like June 10th or something, and it's usually promotional material for some big new thing that comes out. And
so I'm curious.
Last one did.
So I'm curious, right? So 10th edition is coming out, and they're really condensing a lot.
Streamlining a lot of the stuff that's been just a kind of a problem.
So I know the new hotness is gonna be how each of these legions run. Are you planning on maybe doing some updated videos on some of these legions?
I think I might.
10th ed update.
I think I plan on doing that, like remaking some of my old videos, but with just better research, better like I guess just made, and then new rule stuff. Because like a big thing that's going to change, and the thing I have to hold off on is it seems like a lot of sub faction stuff might be going away in favor of detachment rules, where you're bringing a specific type of attachment, and then the actual faction might not matter as much, but we don't know. Currently, it is in this nebulous space of just figuring out what it's even going to be because we're being drip fed rules.
Right.
The latest thing we got was stat lines, which look so good. I'm really excited for that.
That's kind of what made me think about it, because it'd be super easy to just throw those up on screen, just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, because the other ones are so massive. Like, it's super hard to like actually show them off sometimes,
right? Especially
for characters. Like, everything's going to fit on essentially the size of an index card and be readable. All your army rules are going to be on a page. I'm pretty sure in that case there's going to be like faction stuff and maybe some unique things for bringing a certain like legion or chapter. But we will see, and it's going to dictate what those videos are going to look like. Because I have a feeling one thing I'm going to do right away is I'm going to make a video on the Black Legion. Probably my first 10th edition remake, because it's one of my earlier videos.
A good choice.
And also because it's the army I play. So it's a really good excuse for me to like sit down and force myself to learn how it works. Because like I play them. I'm playing Black Legion in Crusade right now. And I it's like them and Custodes that I have the most just sheer skill in actually playing.
I'm so curious to see how Custodes are going to change. They get flip-flopped around so much.
So I'm really excited for that part in particular, because the big thing that they're also doing is they're updating stat lines to have like a new basis. Because the new thing used to be like, it used to be, you know, 4 toughness was like the standard Marine, 3 toughness for someone not wearing power armor, like 5 toughness for if you're extra cool. So toughness is now a bigger thing to take into account the size, scale, and scaling of 40k. And now Space Marine Terminators have a toughness of 5, which was the Custodes toughness. So we might be getting T6 Custodes. And as well, invul saves are being altered around as well, because the standard for a lot of them was 5 and 4. 4 was a really good invul save. 5 is like the standard you can get. You might be going back to 3-up invul save Custodes, which I'm so excited for, because that is so awful for your opponent to deal with. If I roll a 1 or a 2, you wound me. A 3-up, I take nothing.
I do think that's going to be the space of Warhammer YouTube, is everyone getting out what videos they can, and they're going to go for either what everyone plays or what they know best.
I would, it's like I could do the most popular factions, which I mean, I know the numbers of roughly like what some of like the top playing ones are, and they're going to change because that number changes with what's meta. Because right now I think one of the most played factions competitively is Sisters. That's because Sisters of Battle are kind of broken.
Right.
And they got fixed a little bit, but they're still really strong. Same with like, I think Necrons are up there again now. Tau is doing really well. Votan is really good. Stuff like that. And I could do that, or I could just make a video about 10th edition teaching about like what the new rules are and getting myself accommodated with it with an army that I know kind of like the back of my hand. I know my rules for Black Legion. I don't know my stratagems because there's like 50 of them, and I'm really bad at memorizing stratagems, which makes me so happy that we're being reduced to core stratagems like older editions have, and like I think 8 unique, and like that's it. Which is going to be great, because like Warhammer's turned into a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Of I do thing, trap card.
Yeah,
like it's a lot of current 40k stuff is the fun game of turning off your opponent's game.
Right.
Like, Votan are like that. Votan have a lot of rules where it's like, I'm punishing you for playing the game. How dare you have an army with interesting rules? Nuh-uh, I don't care. And that's not fun. So the fact they're redesigning a lot of it from the ground up to be balanced around each other, I think there's a serious timeline where we have a glorious completely balanced competitive game. Yeah, like literally, it's control deck. Warhammer.
Blue. Everyone's running blue.
Yeah,
blue or black.
Blue is disgusting. Blue decks are awful, and you should feel bad for people who run them. But yeah, that's Death Guard and Votan. That's all they do. They just like, I don't like that you play the game. What if you didn't?
Yeah.
And it's unfun.
I really hope that this is the renaissance of Warhammer, where the game changes and now everyone gets to play. Everyone gets to have fun with their armies. And
I'm excited to have, because I'm building up my Raven Guard force through a lot of excellent gifts I've received. I've essentially built up a army of just gifts and free. Like I won a raffle at my local store for their Patreon, so I got a box of Space Marine stuff, and I'm excited for Raven Guard to be playable, because Raven Guard suck ass, dude. They're the worst. Like Space Marine chapter, other than Imperial Fists, who famously have a good number of unique rules that they cannot physically do in game. Because here's my list of stratagems that do something that hasn't existed in 40k since 8th edition.
Yeah.
How cool. Oh yeah, I get to destroy terrain features, a rule that doesn't exist. Love it.
So this summer, it's going to be big. It's going to be big for both of us, because you're going to have a big thing going on. I'm going to be moved, hopefully. I've messaged my apartment complex today, and they have not responded, which is worrying, and they're no longer in office. So
I imagine it's putting that off because landlords don't answer their phones.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a problem. But Age of Elements comes out, possibly 10th edition Warhammer comes out, and also we might sometime this summertime have a live play. So, or like an in-person live play, which would be kind of sick. And we got enough players nearby, and maybe we can ship some players from California to have a week of fun, and go to Vancouver too. That's gonna be a lot of fun. So
yeah, Canada's fun.
But yeah, so we got a lot coming up, and thank you all so much for being here. I'm always happy to support the community, so helping out Pete with the beginner box days is very exciting. I really hope that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, agreeing. It's a super cool project, and it's a great endeavor. And honestly, having someone very enthusiastic and happy to be doing that and taking that role is an important thing that a lot of other people just wouldn't do. So that's what you want in an event organizer. So I think this is just going to be cool. I hope more people get into this. I hope people find tables through this, and I hope more people play Pathfinder through this.
Same, or at the very least, play less D&D. That's kind of the big thing, right? And it's not because D&D bad, stinky. It's just, it's not the only thing it's not World of Warcraft, right? It's not like the only game you should ever play, whatever. Go around, look at what's available, check out new games. I personally think Pathfinder 2E is the best designed tabletop to date, and it's my current favorite tabletop. But we just got done doing a live play. I've only been running Lancer for 3 months. So, if I, who has a channel on it and has a lot of incentive to do everything Pathfinder, can play a different game for a little while, I think all of you can do the same thing.
True.
But yeah, anything else, any other announcements you want to make before we end for the day?
Stay tuned. Premiere link will be up soon once I get thumbnail. But a video will be going live tomorrow morning at 10 p.m. or a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sanguinius, everybody's favorite Primarch. So stay tuned for that if you want to look into him. He's got a really interesting story, and actually, as much shit as I give him, he's an interesting character. He's got some really cool things going on in his life, but still just boring Conrad Kurz. But anyways, keep an eye on that. So if you like that subject or are just interested in 40k, there'll be a video on that tomorrow.
And I just got done recording the first ancestry changing archetype for Pathfinder, the ghost archetype, where you can turn into a ghost.
I want to.
You shouldn't be. Works. It's atrocious.
I'm more interested. I don't think you understand. My favorite videos I've edited for you are the ones where you're like shitting on an archetype the whole time. It's really fun.
It's fair. It's just weird, but it's the first of its kind that we've handled on the channel so far. It's also the weakest of the bunch. So not a good starter, but at the very least, I think it's nothing but up from this one. So it's a very interesting one. A sneak peek of what the video is. If you're not careful, your ghost character can get stuck in a wall and cannot get out.
Huh.
I'll elaborate a little bit. If you have to take a feat to pass through walls, first of all, it's like pass through.
Yeah.
And it's 3 actions to move your speed and go and whatever. And you can do it once per 10 minutes.
Huh.
So if you're inside an object, it even says you cannot leave until you can use pass through again. So even rules as written, with the intent, you have to wait 10 minutes before you can move out of the object. That also is impossible to do after 10 minutes, because if you end your turn inside of an object, you become slowed 1, which reduces the number of actions you have by 1. So you can no longer take the 3 action pass through action to get out. Once you're stuck in a wall, your friends are gonna have to chip you out.
You're a ghost. The whole fun of ghosts is going in and out of objects. And why is it like that? I mean, I understand logistically from a game sense. You can't just have a player going woo all the way through the dungeon, like ignoring everything. Like when you played a hacked Pokemon game and could run through walls, like just running around everything. I get reason you can't do that, but like being stuck in a wall, like dude,
you're just stuck and you can't leave under your own power. Your
friends
will have to blow a hole in the wall.
That's really goofy. Just like, oh, we have to do a mining expedition for our ghost friend. Isn't he a ghost? Yeah, I know. It's a whole thing.
At least he won't die. He won't suffocate. Granted, they do provide a side box saying if the GM wants, they can loosen these rules somewhat. I just find it hilarious that they wrote in this rule for going into an object that is very specific and then becomes impossible to leave the object under the rules they wrote for it. It's just pure tabletop jank and people trying a little too hard to balance ghosts, and it's funny, but my god, is it kind of a bad archetype.
Yeah, just, you know what? I think Kevin's got a good point. Just let the ghost suffocate in the wall.
I want that ghost dead. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Also, you're not immune to poison or disease, so you can still get poisoned.
You don't have a body. You don't got a fucking, like, a body to get sick. Or, like, poison. What?
Yeah, so you get a +1 circumstance bonus.
Oh man, I really like my +1 circumstance. It's like taking a preemptive potion in case going into a poison swamp. Just not having like a body is like equal.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
So
again, I understand why it's not just you're immune, but that's still really dumb.
When it comes to poison and disease, you could just be immune. They're not super common damage types. They can.
Okay, fair.
They can take the L on that one, Paizo, but it's a great one if you enjoy laughing at really janky, not very well working archetypes. I do believe Ghoul will be a lot better, and that will be not far off. Granted, there's like 3 archetypes that start with Ghost, so we'll be in Ghost Town for a while. But anyway, that's gonna be it from us. Thank you all so much for being here. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me. And I guess we'll go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.